So when you're starting out and running PHP, especially if you've just set up a local box, a good first step is always to check out what your PHP info is. And if you see here, the command here is a built-in command function within PHP, and it's very simple. What you do is just do PHP info and put the two round brackets. And what this signifies, if you're familiar with JavaScript or other scripting languages, that this is just running a function. So this is actually a built-in function, and within the editor you can see that it does go blue, as opposed to when we're just typing in text that's just going black, because it is a recognized function within PHP. And what this will do when we refresh the page, we get a whole output of what our setup is and what our whole configuration is for PHP. And this is a lot of valuable information that's provided within this file. There's going to be a whole bunch of particulars within this file that you're going to have to look at, considering different programming options for PHP. Such as there's GD support if you're rendering out images, as well as the coding in general. You always want to look at and make sure that you do have a version of PHP that's supporting the content that you're trying to build out. So always keep that in mind, and this is always a good first step to just check what your environment is and what's set up, because if you find that certain things don't function when your server setup isn't proper within PHP coding, and sometimes that leads to quite a bit of troubleshooting. So the best thing to do is to check out what your PHP info is right off the bat and make sure that you do have your environment set up properly in order to write the code that you're going to be writing. So within this course, we're going to be looking at PHP 5 code, and we're using PHP version 5.6, so we're pretty good with what we need to write out. Another thing to check out as well is to check out your header information, and this will give you some information about where the files are sitting on your local machine, as well as the root path to where the host is located. Once again, that function to write out is PHP info, and it gives you all that great information, and you don't really have to write anything other than that function. It knows that it needs to render out within the browser page. And you can put that on top of other code, so if you quickly want to see what your PHP info is and you've got a bunch of HTML code underneath, that will render out as well, and it will add in that HTML code at the bottom. So we do see that the source code, we do see that our HTML code that we just entered in there is at the bottom, but by default it is already writing in those HTML tags. So not a good practice if you're going to be using it for actual within your script, but it is a great way to kind of get some information quickly about your PHP environment.